floor to our rapporteur, Mr. Callanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am delighted to be able to open our debate today on my report from the emissions from light commercial vehicles. Before I get to the detail of the text, please indulge me and allow me a few thanks. First of all, to the shadow rapporteurs from all of the political groups. Secondly, the rapporteurs and members of the Transport and Industry Committee for their opinions. Thirdly, to the Commissioner and her team. We have held a number of very constructive meetings about this. Fourthly, to the Belgian Presidency for their very hard work during the trialogue negotiations. And finally, to Jos Verhulst and Isabel Findlay from the ENVI Secretariat, who have provided some incredible support throughout the process. Particularly Isabel's help on the complex comitology issues is very much appreciated. The proposed legislation has been expected ever since similar legislation was passed concerning passenger cars. Personally, I was not entirely convinced of the need for this legislation because most vans are bought by businesses, both large and small, and as such they are already very conscious of the need for economy and fuel efficiency. Because of this, it has been my belief throughout the process that it is crucial to have ambitious but realistic long-term target and an appropriate near-term target that takes into account the needs of both industry product cycles and the need for environmental improvement. And it has always been the long-term target which has been the main focus throughout our debate. The Commission's original proposal was 135 grams of CO2 per kilometre, and that was deemed by many sources to be simply unachievable. Unlike the passenger car sector, the LCV sector has longer development and production times than passenger cars, and similarly LCVs, as their name implies, are used mainly for commercial purposes. Unlike passenger cars, there is less scope to modify either their shape or their weight in a bid to reduce emissions. The principal way to accomplish this in LCVs is through modifications to the engines and mechanics of the vehicles, a much longer and more expensive process than simply altering the body or reducing the weight of the vehicle. It should also be noted that there is already a much greater penetration of diesel fuel usage in the LCV sector than in the car sector. When the Commission published their original proposal, many of the manufacturers made it clear that they wished to settle for nothing less than 160 grams of CO2 kilometre, a figure which in turn struck most of us in Parliament as being far too relaxed and complacent. In the end, the package that we have all agreed on, and which is before you today, has come to a fairly sensible compromise position of 147 grams of CO2 per kilometre. Given the higher costs of reducing CO2 in LCVs compared to cars and the longer development and production cycles needed, my personal belief is that this provides a good balance between ensuring improved environmental standards whilst giving a realistic and achievable target for the LCV manufacturing sector. The fact that by reaching this compromise figure we are being attacked on one side as being too pro-industry and by the other as being too environmentally friendly suggests to me that possibly we have just about got the balance right. One area of the Commission's proposal on which all groups agreed was unworkable concerned the very complex issue of multi-stage vehicles. Obviously, it is unfair to penalise the manufacturers of the base vehicle when they are not responsible for what happens to the vehicle at a later stage of its production. The package that is before you today includes a very sensible proposal that the Commission will review this issue before the end of the year, and it sets out the basis under which this review should take place. I believe that the package that we have negotiated and will be put before Parliament today as Amendment 58 is the best possible outcome, and I am pleased to have the support, I hope, of most of the main political groups. It balances the need for improved environmental standards with realistic and achievable targets that will not prejudice manufacturing industry nor pose a risk to jobs in the Union. Generally, I am not in favour of first reading agreements, believing that they are best avoided if at all possible. However, in this case, a first reading agreement provides clarity and certainty to a sector that is still suffering in the wake of the global economic crisis, whilst also setting the bar for tough but fair environmental standards that we all wish to see. I hope that colleagues will join me in supporting the package today. Thank you.
Mr. Callanan.